Alright, so what you're going to want to do here is you're going to need to get as much flexion as possible in the lumbar, but as little flexion as possible in the hip. So what this is going to look like here is you're going to do an isometric hold crunch. So get as much of the shoulder blades off as possible around this lumbar here. So get the lumbar to flex like this, and then do not let those feet come off. Those feet need to stay on. Do not let those feet slide out like this, and do not move those knees in like this. Just focus on getting as much of this part of the back here off as possible. Just eyeball this. You don't need a goniometer, but if you can't get 20 degrees of dorsiflexion here, you have lack of ankle mobility. What you need to do instead is train your tibialis anterior every day. So how you do this, take some resistance bands and then train this muscle isometrically. So flex those ankles toward you, okay? So I'm trying to decrease this angle right here. Right now it's about like whatever 80 degrees. I'm trying to get like down to 60 degrees under tension here. So just get as much dorsiflexion here as possible. Just because you have a weak muscle does not mean you should train that every day. I'm glad you asked this question here because I don't want others to be confused on this either. So for example here, if you have small calves, the cause to this could be that you're sitting like this all the time. So the ankles are in all this plantar flexion for long periods of time. So what you need to do here to fix this is one, not sit like this, but you really need to train that tibialis anterior muscle every day to fix this muscle imbalance to increase your ankle mobility, because the calves here are already tight and overactive. They could be weak, but they're tight because they've always been in this shortened position, because what they do is they plantar flex the ankle, and the ankle's plantar flexed all day long. So what you want to do here is you want to take a band, wrap it around like a pole or tree like I'm doing right here. Then you want to adduct the shoulders like this, and then protract those shoulder blades. So move those shoulder blades apart and then together. Then apart and then together. And then apart again and together. So what it would specifically look like here from the back is those shoulder blades move apart and then together on the eccentric punch, and they move apart again and then back together. The simple answer here is no. You do need to be in a calorie surplus to gain weight, but you can gain muscle without gaining weight as long as you're losing fat while you're gaining muscle. So let's just look at an example here. So you could go from 150 pounds to 149 pounds over the next 2 months. Now, and you could have gained 2 pounds of lean muscle and lost 3 pounds of fat. So you can just be kind of staying around the same weight, or going slightly down in weight because you're in a calorie deficit, while increasing lean mass and decreasing fat mass. So you got your weight, your sets, your reps, your tempo, your rest between sets, and the number of times you train that muscle per week. So you got 6 variables here. You want to change one at a time. So if you're training for strength or hypertrophy, I would recommend the main one you change is the weight. Certainly for strength. For hypertrophy, you could maybe change up the tempo and the sets and reps here and there too. And then when it comes to cardio, I got my YouTube channel, the Fat Loss Playlist series explains progressive overload when it comes to cardio to help you, most importantly, increase your VO2 max. you're going to need to work out smarter here. You're going to need to send the strongest message with the least amount of overall volume and intensity so you can recover here. So how we do this here is first you got to build a great foundation. You need to fix your form in all the compound movements and fix your posture here. I have tons of videos on my TikTok and YouTube channel on how to do this. And then what you're going to need to do is when you have built that great foundation, you're going to need to lift heavy with great form, okay? Those are the two things you need to focus on. How heavy you can lift and how perfect you can make your form be.
Alright, so most likely the tightness is caused due to tight hip external rotator. So what you want to do here is have the knee bent like this. So you're gonna do your left leg here, and then move that knee that way. Okay, so like this, and then what this is gonna do here is it's gonna internally rotate the hip. Now what we gotta do is rotate the lumbar. So twist like this and then try to really focus on moving that knee that way where my thumb's pointing while twisting this way, so you can get that lumbar rotation there. So you should when you really focus on getting that knee that way and rotating the lumbar this way, you should really feel in the top side and back of the hip.
So what not to do here is do not just sacrifice your form so you can lift more weight. What you need to do here is maybe go down a little bit in weight and focus on your form more. Be very picky on your form, and then also reassess yourself. Reassess your posture, your squat form, your pushing and pulling form, and try to track progress based off form more. Take photos and videos of you working out, so you can really get the form down and make sure you have a great foundation. Another thing you can do is try to make the environment more unstable. So, and then try to progress in weight that way. So if you've just been doing a barbell bench press, well, the statement here is true, but I feel like a lot of people reading this statement might do the wrong things for them to try to help themselves lose weight when reading this statement. So yes, to lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit, but there's many different ways we could create a calorie deficit. Eating less is just one of those many ways, but I feel like a lot of people reading that statement would think the only thing they can do to create a calorie deficit is eat less, when really you got your resting metabolic rate, thermal effect of food, and the physical activity. Those three things affect the calories out. So if you want to lose weight long term here, you want to really focus on increasing those three things. To increase your resting metabolic rate, put on more lean muscle mass. So reducing stress can definitely help out with that, because all the stresses add up. And then to increase physical activity without overtraining, increase. So if you have an anterior pelvic tilt, it's going to be very easy here for the hip flexors to take over. So what you want to do here is have the feet like this. Do not let those feet come up, and then get some lumbar flexion here. Get as much of the back off here as possible. Do not let the knees move in. Do not let the feet slide out. Really concentrate here, keeping those feet flat on the ground and close to the hips like this, and get as much flexion here in the lumbar as possible. So remember here, when it comes to hitting those lower abs, you're going to need to try to get more flexion in this lower part of the back. So to be specific, lumbar 3 to lumbar 5 when doing that exercise, but make sure those hips don't flex. Those feet need to stay flat on the ground and stay close to the hips. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure you have a great foundation. So how you can find that out is on my YouTube channel, my posture, squat form, and upper body assessments playlist series will explain that and how to fix that. Now, if you do have a great foundation, well, you still need to stretch out your calves. So you can do that by just plantar flexing the ankle like this, getting those hips and knee forward like this while still keeping that heel on the ground, because in running we got tons of plantar flexion here, so you definitely could develop tight calves. Then focus a lot on the running. I have my YouTube channel, I have some videos, and my TikTok that explain how to increase VO2 max, so focus on that. And then also when it comes to lifting, so when it comes to squats, focus on the speed of the reps, the weight, and the form. So focus on lifting with great form. In the long run, more muscle fibers will be getting damaged, which will help you increase your appetite because there'll be more tissue to repair. I have tons of videos on my TikTok and YouTube channel explaining how to lift with great form. So let's look at an example here. The lats here attached to the humeral bone to all 5 vertebrae of the lumbar here. So if my scapula stays elevated, the lats are still not fully contract. But if I get that scapular depression, the lats will have contract a lot more. So the point is here, when it comes to if you have great form, the muscle will have to go through a further range of motion on the joint. First of all, you need to be able to understand why you're making the decisions you're making. It's not always due to nutrition on why you're eating what you're eating. If you become less sensitive to insulin, you'll crave sugar more. If you're under an excessive amount of stress throughout the day, you'll also crave sugar more. So it's about finding the root cause here. And then also another thing too, the training side of things is very important. You won't be able to fix your posture through nutrition. You're gonna have to fix that through training. You won't be able to fix your form and become more functional through nutrition. You need to do that through your training. Same thing with range of motion too. So a squat would be better for you if you had a posterior pelvic tilt or if you have a forward lean. A deadlift would be better for you if you have an anterior pelvic tilt or a lower back arch. So when we look at the difference here, if you have lack of ankle mobility, you need to focus on the squat, because here the squat's going to require more ankle mobility since we need to get the tibia bone and the spine to be parallel lines like this. So a squat here should look like this, okay? So those lines here are parallel, and then with a deadlift, those knees and hips are way back more. So notice here that ankle in a squat goes into way more dorsiflexion than it would in a deadlift. A deadlift, those hips go into a lot more flexion here. Alright, so take a foam roller here, get the front of the hip here, just on that corner of the foam roller, and then just go back and forth here like this, and then find where it's the most tight, then hold it there, then do the other side on this corner of the foam roller. Now, if you don't feel much tightness here, take a baseball, tennis ball, or lacrosse ball, put it right here on the front of the hip, and then kind of go to the side a little bit, go up and down, relax the muscle, don't let it tense up, find where it's the most tight and hold it there. You should really feel a lot of tightness here. And then also to stretch it, get both those hips forward like this, and then thrust this hip out like this. So lean slightly back by getting this hip into more extension there.